don't know where Angel went off to. Anyway, I'm making breadcrumbs. I picked this up for free this morning from the Salvation Army. And something that I do regularly. I make all sorts of different things with breadcrumbs. And I'm not thrilled with this stuff, but it's okay. It's for breadcrumbs. I certainly prefer the bread from Solomon's Porch. There's a few different breads that they make, but they make one where the loaf is very small, but when you cut it open, you find that there's so many seeds and stuff in there that you wonder, how in the world did they get that bread to hold together? It's that awesome. And this doesn't quite smell like bread should. So anyway, I'm not super thrilled with this, but it is organic, ancient grain, non-GMO. And I'll make some burger patties out of it, or something, pretend meatballs, something like that. James really likes burgers. Anyway. And it's certainly, I would never buy breadcrumbs. It took me a while, you know, somebody asked me a while back, how do you make breadcrumbs? And I kind of paused for a minute because I was thinking, wow, you don't know how to. And then I realized later, you know, there was a time when I didn't know how to make them. I remember my first time making breadcrumbs, I did realize, okay, dry out bread and then turn into crumbs. So I thought dry out bread in pieces like this. It didn't occur to me to use my gas stove, because at that time I had a gas stove too, and it would have, I mean, the pilot light, it's always providing some warmth, right? So you can stick your bread in there and it'll dry out. At least it sure does in my oven. So anyway, I don't know how I dried out the breadcrumbs. I don't remember. I probably just spread them out on the counter. Anyway, and then they're sure emotionally. But in any case, what I got them into a freezer bag or something like that, and then I was trying to squish it to make crumbs, and that wasn't working out too well. And I decided, okay, well, I'll get my hammer out. Anyway, so there was a time when I didn't know how to make them either, but it's really easy. You just use the mincing sort of blade on your food processor once these are dry, and it takes a matter of seconds. And then you mix with some cooked beans or lentils, which you mashed up. You can do that in the food processor too. Or you can just mash them. And some seasoning, whatever kind of herbs and spices you might like to have in your burgers. Now, one thing I like to do is when I'm making beans for burgers, cooking them, I'll cook them in whatever flavors I think will enhance the burger type that I'm making. So you can cook your beans in whatever. It doesn't have to be water. It could be, you could cook your beans in pure ginger juice if you wanted to. And then they're going to absorb all of that flavor, right? So, I mean, a lot of people will think, oh, well, beans are so boring. Well, whatever. say the same thing about tofu, and it's like, what are you using for a marinade? And it's the same sort of thing with beans. You know, you don't have to cook them with water. They will absorb whatever you cook them in for fluid, and it can taste good. And then you don't have to worry about... So think about what sort of things you might want to... Say you want an oniony flavored burger patty. Well, you know, or now you do, because I'm telling you, because I know from experience, if you add things like onions, they have a lot of moisture. So you mince up your onions in a food processor and you'll notice it right away. They're quite juicy. So if you're making a burger patty, you might say, I'd rather use onion powder or garlic powder rather than putting those things in, because I know they're going to be juicy, right? Or whatever, carrots or something like whatever. Celery. Celery's really juicy. And plus, if you've minced up celery with the food processor, or just eaten celery because you're a human being that knows what celery is, you'll notice you probably don't like that fibrous texture. And it's really hard to get all those strings, because the cells are arranged along the stem like this, right? And they tend to stay together, right? So you get these like big long hairs, and they don't tend to mince up really well. So what you might want to do, say you want, I'll take those two, onion and celery. They're really juicy things. You want your burger to have those flavors in the end, and you don't necessarily want to use onion powder, but from experience, you're gonna use it rather than using fresh onion, because the more juicy things you add to your burger mixture, the more breadcrumbs you're gonna have to add. And well, you don't have to use breadcrumbs either, and I'll talk about that later. I use them a lot of the time because we don't have a lot of money. But you don't have to. You could make this out of, say, sprouted teff. You could add more sprouted, or a mixture. You can add some breadcrumbs, some sprouted teff, or some other sprouted thing that you might want to use, or you can use oat flour. Okay, but I'm getting off topic. I was talking about the onions. So you're wanting your burgers to have a juicy, or not juicy, an onion and celery flavor, but you don't want all that moisture from using fresh onions, fresh celery. So what you do is this. You take your juicer, you juice the amount of onions and celery that you want to put into your burgers, and that is what you cook your beans in. And then you get a nice oniony, celery flavored bean, and your burger is going to taste just like you put the onion and celery in it, because you did. You stuck it inside the bean when you cooked your beans. So, get it? So, and you can really pump up the nutritional content of your burger that way. Just look into what things you are able to cook, like what juices you can cook and still retain nutritional value from, right? So, and you might not be concerned with some loss of nutrients, because if you're still getting loads by adding it, and it's not a very expensive source, it's really not wasting so much, and if it tastes yum, whatever. And so, yeah, you can juice that and stick that in your to make your beans too, whatever it is, whatever you choose. Just look it up. So there's a good little healthy tip to make your burger healthier. And if you're thinking, oh gosh, I want to stay away from breadcrumbs and burger patties because it's not very healthy, well, I just boosted your nutritional value and made it so that you could add less breadcrumbs by juicing your onion first before you decided to stick it into the patty. And then you can always do things like, say you're putting carrot juice in your patty, and you want to use, or whatever kind of thing. Because a lot of the time what I do anyway is all of my burger patties, they'll also have vegetable pulp in them. So say I have, well, oftentimes it's cabbage, because I drink a lot of cabbage juice. But it could be carrot, and this coming week it's going to be parsnip. So, because I have parsnips that somebody gave me, which, yay, parsnips. So, and James hates them. So I'm going to be drinking them, I think, mostly. But anyway, I'm going to juice those. So then I'm going to have loads of parsnip pulp, right? So I'm going to stick that in my patty. And I'm going to do another thing with that. I'll show you. Well, I think I already showed you how to make pot stickers and egg rolls and wontons, didn't I? Well, anyway, yeah, use pulp for that. Then you don't get a soggy egg roll, and you can, it's whatever. You still add your normal, whatever, Chinese 5-spice, or whatever you're adding to the thing. And it tastes great. And James loves it. So, anyway, where was I? Oh, pulp. So, say you're wanting to make a pulp burger, and you're wanting to put the juice into the beans. You're still getting your whole, say, cabbage or carrot or whatever, if you're putting the pulp in and the juice in, right? So you're still eating whole foods. It's still plant-based, and it's still really healthy. So don't feel bad about indulging in a burger patty every now and then. Just try to make it as healthy as you can.